It used to really freak me out because I'd go and have a look and there'd be nothing, even like on a still day, like no wind, nothing. Like it would literally it would freak me the fuck out.
Hello, ghouls and boys, and welcome to episode 5 of Your Ghost Stories.
We have a great show lined up for you this evening. We have Ethan Grice, a friend of ours from the music scene.
Without further ado, we'll jump in and get right on with the show. Hello, Ethan, and thanks so much for joining us on Your Ghost Stories. So, have you had the chance to listen to any of our previous episodes yet?
No, I haven't. I'm really sorry. I haven't had a chance to listen to anything. I really apologise.
And that's the end of the show.
But I've watched the clips on Instagram. I've watched all those, so I feel like in a way I have listened to it. But I've watched all the clips.
I'm sorry, are we keeping you up?
You should totally check out the previous episode with Sam Lance. You know Sam personally as well. And we were quite surprised to hear he had some stories, and they're so good to listen to. I'd definitely recommend listening to that episode.
I will definitely listen to Sam. I love Sam Lance. He's a lovely boy.
He's a great guy.
He is a delight.
Isn't he nice?
Got some really creepy stories as well, man. So it's good to check out.
So we know Ethan personally. We actually have just started playing in a band together, and Ethan plays in another band, but I'll let him introduce that. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Ethan.
I'm Ethan. I am obviously a very bad friend for not listening to your podcast. But I'm in a band called Call to the Faithful. That's the band that I'm in. Well, I've been in for years. I also do a podcast with the bands, which I'd love you guys to be on. And I play bass, and I play bass for you now, which is very nice. It's nice to see you more often.
Should probably listen to your podcast, shouldn't I? I mean, I've seen the Instagram clips. But...
Yeah, have you listened to my podcast, Jeremy?
No, your podcast looks really good. So yeah, tell us a little bit about your podcast before we get started.
Oh, okay. It's just like a music-based podcasts, music artists, that sort of stuff. Like I just want like cool people to come on the podcast and just chat about themselves and chat about what they do. And we play a couple of games. We do an intros round halfway through. It's just a bit of a chill podcast. There's no real theme. It's not like structured like this. It's not got real. We haven't got any sort of format. We just sort of chill and have fun in like this living room, which is cool. It's a cool setting. So yeah, check it out. It's called The Nerve.
And you've got one step ahead of us, and you've got some video as well. And your setting looks really, really cool.
Yeah, it's all right, mate. It's all right. We've done a good job, and for very low budget as well. We're doing our best to sort of make it as big as we can, really. So yeah, we've got some cool episodes coming up. We've got some good guests coming up as well. So which I can't really talk about, but yeah, there's some cool stuff coming up, which keep your eye out for. It'll be fun.
You've certainly made a really good comeback with that podcast. I mean, we tried to record an episode in your bedroom, I think last year or 2 years ago.
Oh man.
And it was probably my fault, but it was so bad that we didn't even end up putting it out.
No, it was our fault. It was.
Yeah, that didn't go down too well, did it? And then we just sat there and could barely form a sentence.
Yeah, it wasn't good.
But tonight we're here, we're sober, and we hear you have some ghost stories for us.
Only a couple.
Firstly, what is your stance on all things ghosts, paranormal, etc.? You know, where do your beliefs lie? Have you always been a believer or a bit of a skeptic?
I really float between the two, which is rather annoying, because I've had my experiences have been fairly minor in comparison to other stories that I hear. But then there's people that I talk to that have got stories that you listen to and you go, did that really happen? And I find it difficult to. Ghost stories have been around forever, so there's got to be some substance to it, surely. But at the same time, why haven't we been able to prove the existence of stuff? But there's some people think they haven't proved it. It's I don't know, but I'd like to think it's real. I think why not? Like energy's never destroyed, is it? It's always just changed. So there must be something out there. There must be some residual energy when you die. So why not? Do you know what I mean?
I think that's the best way to be when approaching the paranormal. You know, if you can be totally drawn in and sucked in if you just believe everything you hear. But I think it's so good to also have an open mind. I mean, even though we've got this podcast here, me personally, I'm definitely a skeptic. When someone tells a story, 9 times out of 10, I think there's probably a rational explanation for it. But sometimes, I've experienced things myself, and sometimes you just can't explain it, and it just makes me believe, wow, there really must be something else
Yeah.
here in this world.
Yeah, definitely. And there's too many stories. There's too many weird things that have happened. There's too many things that people have experienced for there not to be something in it,
Yeah, 100%, 100%. It's just one of those sort of things that until it's actually happened to you or you experience something really weird, you don't really open your mind to it until sort of something like that happens. Well, for me, sort of like anyway, the more sort of I've had an experience, the more I'm like sort of like James said, not believe everything, but still got have that sort of like air of skepticism. Like, did it really happen? Unless it happens again, or it's not a straightforward, I believe sort of thing.
So take us back to your very first experience of something strange that happened to you.
So the first real thing, so I used to be quite scared as a kid of like, I love horror films now, but I used to be very scared of them when I was a kid, as I suppose most people are. I remember watching an episode of what's it called? Goosebumps. Do you remember Goosebumps?
Yeah, Goosebumps.
Used to love that.
Mate, ain't Goosebumps great? There was a particular. This has very little to do with the actual experience I had, but there was a particular episode. Do you remember the episode where the kids go to their grandparents' cabin and and then they go into this bedroom and they like uncover a monster and they walk out of the bedroom and there's like a note on the side saying "Don't go in that bedroom," and they get locked in. Have you ever seen that episode?
can't remember
That
that one.
scarred me for life. That was horrible. So I used to be very scared of stuff. So I went to a friend's house after watching that episode. I went to a friend's house for a sleepover, as you do back when you're young, and we were playing in like the living room, and he always spoke about having a ghost in the house. So already I was like really freaked out, and it was around somebody's birthday, and there was like a big like silver helium balloon in the corner. So again, bear in mind, the reason I told you the Goosebumps story is because I was scared. I was already scared at this point, right? They told me about this ghost that he had in his house, and then the balloon like just shot down to the floor, and then sort of came back up like at like 10, 10:30 at night. We've been watching like American Dad or something, and I shit myself because there was like the heating wasn't on because it was late at night, and we checked the radiators. Like, and it was like somebody had gone round and like put like almost like you pull a light switch in the bathroom. Like it literally really pulled it. It really shot down, and then obviously then floated back up to the surface. That was weird.
What age were you at the time?
Oh mate, I don't know, like 10, 12, maybe. Must be younger than that. Maybe 9, 8, 9. Yeah,
That certainly would be terrifying at that age. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's funny you say about Goosebumps. I actually watched it for a bit of fun, I think about 4 or 5 years ago. I think it was on Netflix or something. And man, for children, it is terrifying.
Isn't it? Isn't it awful? Do you remember the sponge episode with a sponge with teeth that couldn't be
Yeah.
killed? Mate, weird. Like, who's putting that on? Like, what was it? Like Nickelodeon or something? It was like,
Yeah.
why is it on there?
It's absolutely terrifying for like, it was aimed at what, 7 to 10-year-olds or something.
Yeah. I used to be able to get the books
12-year-olds.
at the library. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it was great, and that
Yeah.
I guess that played a big part into getting me into horrors and stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I love a horror film. So a lot of my stories, I've got one when I was abroad, which is strange, but I'll tell that later on. Another one when I was young used to be a lot of. Now I didn't realize this at the time because my parents were quite good at not scaring young kids. But there used to be a lot of noises at my dad's house. We'd go around, there'd be noises, things would fall off the side, like at night. Like it was always quite strange, and never really understood why as a kid. But it used to freak me out because it was just weird. As we got older, we renovated his house. He put an extension on it and stuff, and the house changed a little bit. But there's always weird noises. Now the main weird noise was a shuffle. Like if you had like big like parachute pants on. Do you know what I mean? Like big flowy pants, like big, like whether that like old ladies wear, like big old trousers.
Yeah.
And you could hear that a lot in the kitchen before the house was done. And a delivery driver turned up one day and said to my stepmom, "Oh, there used to be an old lady that lived here. She was very eccentric. She used to wear big parachute pants." And it's like you can hear that as like in the kitchen, like you're it's like you're shuffling around, like someone's shuffling around next to you. It was really, really strange. Now that sort of changed because the way the house worked, it changed, and we didn't hear it so much. But what we did used to see, and I'd get glimpses of it, and where the stairs were, you could see up to like the landing, right? Because there was like a balustrade around, so you could see up onto the landing upstairs. And we used to have a sofa that sat basically parallel to those stairs to where we'd like watch TV. It was like an open plan sort of sitting room and kitchen sort of thing. Now, when people came round, they'd say this, like, if you just see or hear feet walking across the landing, and you'd blink and you miss it, you'd like sort of look up and it'd be gone. And people would say it all the time, "Well, somebody up the stairs. Is somebody up the stairs?" But it wasn't. It was always just this weird noise. So yeah, that was always really weird as a kid to have to live with that.
So that brings a whole new meaning to every day I'm shuffling.
Yeah, literally. It's such a strange experience. It's weird. Just like, obviously nothing particularly scary. We did do a ghost hunt, which I'll tell you about later on. But nothing particularly scary happens, but it was just strange. And there was a lot of electrical stuff that would happen. So I never experienced this part, but my stepmom tells me that there was a couple of times where like we had a sound system, but we had a sound system in the house. It was rubbish. It never worked. And electrical items often didn't work in the house. And it would just, the volume would just go up and down, and you'd be like in bed, and everything would just peak and go. It was just strange. And she said that one day she was in bed and she could see a glowing from upstairs. So they had like an attic conversion above their bedroom. So there was she could see a glowing where the computer was, and she thought, "Oh, it just must be the computer screen." I thought I turned it off, and then she could hear typing on the keyboard upstairs. And then she says suddenly, just like this massive light just moved down to the bottom of the stairs and then dissipated and went.
It's funny you say that. In episode 2, the same experience happened to Sam Lance and his family.
Really?
Yeah, so have a listen to it. As he told the story, so he was out at the time, and his parents were downstairs, and they're not believers or anything, but things happened in their house that kind of, they couldn't explain. So yeah, he was out one day, and I think they thought he was home, and they heard typing away on his keyboard, and they called up to him, and no answer, no answer. And then he said they were like terrified when he walked through the front door. They were like, "Were you not upstairs on your computer?" He was like, "Nope."
Wow. That's so weird. What a similar experience.
Yeah. And it's funny you say about the electrical interference as well. I mean, this is such a big factor in so many cases of, hauntings and things like that. So I've recently been listening to, I'd really, really recommend it. So it's on, I think it's BBC4. I think it's by Uncanny. It's a podcast. You can find it on Spotify and everywhere. And it's called The Witch Farm. And so many things happen with electrical interference. And their bill was like insane, like thousands and thousands of pounds.
Wow.
And they had electrical companies coming out. They were like, "Nope, nothing's wrong here. You must just be using the electricity."
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, listen to Sam's episode and listen to
That's
this.
very interesting.
The Witch Farm.
That literally used to happen. That was we used like Wi-Fi would be down constantly. It was always very slow. And I always put it down as a kid just to be in the house was just old. It wasn't that old. But you're a kid, so you don't know. And it's only as I got older I started hearing these stories that it all just started to sort of make sense. So I've got a few more about that house, but I've also got one separate. Should I tell a separate one first, or do you want me to how do you want to do it?
Just touching on the house. Did you say it was your granddad's house, or it was the house you lived in?
The house I lived in, my house.
Your house that you lived in.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, hearing those sort of things, that's usually like the start of things, and they usually get, I suppose, more intense over time, especially if you pay attention to them. But yeah. So yeah, carry on.
I moved up into we had a garage outside. And above the garage, there was like an annex. So I moved up there when I got to when I started working at 16. So I moved up there because it was better to be out of my parents' hair. And I was always out all the time, and they were getting pissed off at me getting in late. And the annex was there, so I moved up there. But I used to have a security light outside, so I could see going up and down the stairs. And mate, the amount of times that would flicker on and off, I'd just be sat there and it just happened. Like a cat would trigger it sometimes, and the cat would come up and come in, but the cat never came up. Like, he came up a handful of times. He preferred to be in the actual house. Didn't want to be locked away in my room with me. Do you know what I mean? Who would? And it would literally, like, because I worked it out that so I'm quite tall. I'm 6'2", and going up the stairs to the annex, I had to be on the third step before the light switched on, right? So a cat would have to be a lot further up the steps. Do you see what I mean? Because obviously you can see my head. Do you know what I mean? So it's already up in the air. So what else is setting that off? It used to really freak me out, because I'd go and have a look and there'd be nothing, even like on a still day, like no wind, nothing. Like it would freak me the fuck out.
Was the security light inside or outside?
Outside. But it was like, I had a glass, like French doors. I had glass French doors covered by a blind. So obviously, as soon as the light turned on, I could see it through the blind, and it just used to fucking freak me out.
Yeah, that sounds pretty creepy, actually. Like the French doors sort of thing.
Yeah, French doors are creepy. It's so scary.
Did you live in like the countryside, or was it like a built-up area?
No, it was out. It was next to a golf club.
Okay.
So it was like out in the sticks, so there was no one around. That was even scarier.
I know what it was now. It was golf balls flying past me. That's what it was.
Yeah, and at the dead of night, night golf.
Well, at least you didn't see any shadowy figures coming up to your door, like glowing and through your French doors.
No, I did once, mate, but that was my sister coming up. That was the only dark shadow. But yeah, that always used to freak me out. We ended up doing a ghost hunt in there. And we basically, and I just wanted to, I can't remember if there was anything else weird that would happen when I was a kid before I sort of, because the ghost story is sort of like the biggest one. I think there was just times when my parents would have like parties, and it's very similar to the typing and keep the typing and the music one. Like, there was times where things would happen in the living room when they had friends over, and or the volume would go all the way up on the TV or stuff like that, and like their friends would leave because they were getting that scared. The burglar alarm used to just go off. It used just to trip constantly. People would be coming out all the time, and I remember that happening. I remember the police coming over once because it happened while we were out. It was just very strange. Like, it was just a very strange house. We then did a ghost hunt in the house. So me and my band, we did a music video for our song Demons years and years ago. Go and find it on Spotify if you want to. It's not our best work, but the video is really good. We did I'm really proud of the video we made for it. It's about a guy struggling with mental health, as most videos were around the 2019, 2018 mark. But it was it was a good shoot. It's got a good message, and we did a lot of the video in the house because at the time my parents had moved out. It was long story, but it was not very nice on the inside. How will that to be redone? So before it got redone, we thought, fuck it, let's go and do the video. Oscar, our old guitarist, you should get Oscar or his auntie on, because his auntie is a actual ghost hunter. Like, that's her profession. That's what she does. Like, she goes and ghost walks and does ghost hunting with people. And she'd given him some divination rods. So if you don't know what they are, they're sort of like these things you hold. And you hold like two sticks in your hands, and the sticks sort of like rotate, and that rotates freely. So you're just holding on to the bit that has like the bearing inside it, and then the sticks like rotate.
So I think they're otherwise known as dowsing rods, right?
Oh, maybe didn't know if there's another name for them. Dowsing rods.
Yeah, so I think they find, I think, electronic currents or
water, usually.
Water, yeah.
Yes, yeah, exactly that. Yeah, dowsing rods. Yeah. Yes. So we had some of those. So because I'd spoken about these like experiences that I had as a kid with them, we thought, fuck it, let's give it a go. So we went on to the landing where I said earlier on that they used to see like feet walking across, and Oscar had obviously done this before, so he held the rods, and then we asked questions to whatever was there, and it was a case of if the rods crossed, it was yes. If the rods moved away, it was no. So we started saying, "Are you a lady? Is there? Firstly, is there anybody here? Is anybody present here? Blah blah." And then what was it? Yes for cross and no for moving, whatever. Let's say it was yes for crossing, because I can't fucking remember.
The only image I have in my head right now is you and your mates all crossing rods.
Yeah. That's what it was, mate. It was just a shoot. Actually, there is a video. A guy called Joe Bass. He's the lead singer of a band called Lonesome. If you've heard of them before, they're a Peterborough-based band. Very good. He's got a video of us on his YouTube channel. He was there videoing demons, and he did a ghost hunting video with us. There is a second part to it that he's not released, but that was like the more scary part of it. But so you can see it if you find it on YouTube. If you look at Jay Bass on YouTube, you'll find it somewhere. It's ages ago, it was years ago. I'm sure it was like 2018, 2019. Anyway, we asked a question like, "Are you here?" Rods crossed, yes. And then, "Are you a woman?" Rods crossed, yes. "Do you like us being here?" Rods move further away, no. "Do you remember families living here?" Rods crossed, yes. So we're all getting scared. It's getting cold. Do you know what I mean? We're all feeling quite cold. It's all just getting a bit odd. Like, and then we say, "Do you want to be asked any more questions?" Move away. So no, so we fuck off. And we're all quite scared. So that was always so I felt like there was some proof that there was ghosts there. Then we moved upstairs to the attic where I said about the computer and the typing and the light. Now there, we walked upstairs. Is there anybody here? Yes. Beforehand, also there was Vilux windows in like a attic. We opened one of those for some air, and the amount of dead flies that fell out of there was like out of a horror film. It was so scary. So that really set the tone. So then, is anybody here? Rods crossed, yes. And we ended up basically asking its age. It was like 7 years old. He told us it died of cancer. It was, have you got any illnesses? Yes. How did you die? Was it these sort of things? It was, we like asked so many questions to it, and then it was like, "Do you want us to leave?" And then it started like, then we asked like, "Do you want us to leave?" Yes. And it was just so strange because we spoke to it for a good long time, but horrible.
Have you ever looked into the history of the house, like previous census or?
I've not, to be fair, but my parents have. It wasn't a house that was very old. Like there's a photo of it somewhere from before my dad bought it, and it was a very different house, but it was still the same one, but it was a lot smaller. There was a lot less around it, and then before that, I'm sure the house is only sort of like 30 to 50 years old. It's not an old house. Whether beforehand there was it was something different there, I don't know, but it's creepy.
I'd really recommend it if you do get the chance, try and look into the history and see what you can find.
Yeah, that's not a bad shout. I've never thought about it. I think it scares me too much. Maybe it's one of those things where the ghosts have like got into my mind. They don't want me to find out what the past is. I'm scaring myself now. I'm actually getting a bit creeped out.
There's something behind you, Ethan.
No, I'm not on camera. Don't say that. I've got to look. I've got to look. Yeah, mate. Because sometimes I'll be in my outside of my garden, having a cup of tea, and I'll look upstairs and I'll like think I've seen something, and that's horrible. But I don't think, again, my house isn't an old house, so it's only like 25, 30 years old.
It doesn't always have to be an old house though, because something could have happened in the area. So many stories of, for instance, I've got like a friend who done like a Ouija board thing with someone.
Oh God!
And then
Ouija boards.
And then when he went home, it almost like whatever they were doing, it followed him because he then started having things happen in his house. And he's like, his house was built late 70s, only family in that house, and there was nothing before. But then then there's the other extreme. Like my house is built in 1930s, and I've been living here nearly a year, and this house is quiet. Don't see nothing. Don't really hear anything. Nothing to make me think like, oh, there's something. Maybe there's a ghost in here. Compared to the house I lived in before this one, where things were going on, and that house was like in the 1970s. So it depends really. Well, I didn't mean to cut you off though.
I can't remember what I said. I don't think you cut me off, mate. Don't worry. But you're right. I suppose it can take all sorts. Ouija boards are shit. I'll never do one. I think they're scary. We don't know enough about them.
To be honest, I went on this ghost tour thing, and I've done a Ouija board a few times, and every time I've done a Ouija board, it's always felt like the people you're doing it with are messing with it.
Yeah.
You know, I've not done a Ouija board with all my friends or like people who I know and trust. This have been like random people. You know, one with me and Jamie done, and this guy was clearly doing something, and then one I was at a different place with my ex, and there was these two other girls, and they were clearly directing it, and I was just like, I just didn't feel anything. I was just like, nah, this is forced. You know, what is a guy called George here who used to drive a silver Ford? Like it was like stupid information that like wasn't really relevant. I was like, someone's making this up. They're probably, you know. You get a feeling when something really strange is going on.
Yeah. Do you know what's really strange? I don't know if you can hear this, but I'm getting a load of static through my fucking Logic. I'm going to have to stop recording and start again. 1 second.
Yeah, sure. Do you think the ghost got him, Jamie?
It's got him.
Mate, that was so scary. I can't even tell you. You start going bzzz. Mate, it fucking freaked me the hell out.
I'm behind you.
Oh, don't do that.
When I've got my my little setup here at home, when I'm like recording something on guitar or something like that, every now and again, when I click on like a YouTube video or something and the music's coming out of the speakers,
that's so
it's
scary.
like all slowed down. It's like,
yeah.
like, oh, what the fuck's going on?
Mate, that's horrible. I hate shit like that. I fucking hate shit like that. That's really scared me. That has. God, why are we doing this podcast? It's horrible.
It's fun.
I'm so scared.
I like to listen to ghost podcasts when I'm downstairs doing the washing up middle of the night. Did it the other day, and Sammy and Baby were upstairs, and I like the thrill. So I was like just doing the washing up, listening to this really, really spooky podcast, and I went to put something in the bin, and in the corner of my eye, I saw something black in the corridor.
Oh,
and
God.
I was like, oh no. So I like poked my head around the corner to see what it was. It was a buggy.
Oh, mate, that's horrible. It's like when you're asleep and there's like your pile of clothes in the corner suddenly looks like a fucking Slender Man. Do you know what I mean? Like it just gets you, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I've got a big black fluffy dressing gown. At night, I like to put it on the bedroom door. But yeah, you wake up at like 3 a.m. You're like, oh God.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see like a silhouette. You're like, what the fuck?
I
had one the other day. I was like Jamie. So I had like I think I was listening to like a spooky like thing on YouTube, and I was doing the washing up. It's dark outside, and then for whatever reason, I flicked on the outside light, and I come back to do the washing up, and all of a sudden there's a cat staring at me, and it scared the shit out of me. And then it's like having this staring competition with me, like what? But yeah,
was it your cat?
No, it wasn't my cat. Keeps coming in my garden. It goes in my greenhouse. Keeps shitting and burying.
Shits on your vegetables,
mate. It's going in between my carrots and my spring onions.
That's good for your vegetables, isn't it? Fertilising,
mate. It's really good. I've got my cats shit in my.
I don't think cat shit is.
Mate, I've got 2 cats. Yeah, they shit in the flower bed outside my outside the door where we plant tomatoes. Right, for the last 2 years, we've had fucking bumper tomatoes. I can't tell you the amount of tomatoes we've had. The tomatoes we've wasted because we've not been able to keep up with the amount of tomatoes coming out. Mate, tomatoes and dead rats because the cats, mice, that's kill a lot of rice. So I just bury them in the soil. It's just such a good fertile soil. Let the cat shit on them.
I don't know about that one, but yeah.
Mate, I'll give you some of my shit flavour tomatoes soon. At one band practice, we'll turn up with these brown tomatoes. There you go, mate. You remember the Simpsons where they did Tamaco?
Yeah.
Feel like that. I do have another story actually, which isn't to do with the house I used to live in. I was on holiday once, and I was with an ex-girlfriend, and we were just staying in this hotel. Didn't look anything untoward. We couldn't sleep. It was so scary in there. Like we just kept hearing, like we'd fall asleep and we'd hear bangs, and we'd fall asleep, and then like I remember I got woken up by a rush of like how like an aeroplane sounds, like when it's like spooling up when the jet spools up and it goes. It was like that, and it just we just went bang and woke us up, and we were terrified, absolutely terrified. I swear that room was haunted. Like, because I was so scared, I literally couldn't sleep, and because every time I fell to sleep, something happened.
Sure, it wasn't the maid with her trolley walking past your door. Housekeeping.
Yeah, it may well have been. It may well have been. But she was a scary maid. If it was so scary.
You get scared quite easily by the sounds of it.
I do, but it's usually my brain that scares me.
For such a big lad, 6'2".
I do get scared. I just think it's because, like, when I can't explain something, I get scared about it. Like, I don't know why. Well, what I'm telling myself is the reason my mic flared up like that is because of static, and I'm just going to keep it to that. Because if I don't think that, then I'm just going to be afraid that I'm going to get murdered as soon as I come off this podcast. So we'll have to be talking for hours and hours and hours and hours.
It probably was a ghost, man. Let's face it.
Yeah, probably. They are scary things.
The ghost of all the wasted tomatoes.
Yeah, innit? Yeah, innit? And all the dead mice. I'm not kidding them. I'm sorry. I'm giving you a burial.
You're gonna have to sleep with the light on tonight, aren't you?
Man, I'm gonna have to. I'm literally gonna have to. I do, because I had a dream. So my girlfriend's family, they live in a house in Kent, and she reckons that's haunted. They also have another hotel that they work at, and they own, and they do that's haunted. That's definitely haunted. I've never had anything happen to me, but we stayed there one night, and Grace couldn't sleep because she just kept hearing stuff. It was just, it's like it's a big history. It's called Boys Hall. There's got a really big history. It used to be people used to stay there during the war. People used to stay there during like it's such an old house. It's like there used to be tunnels from there underneath it into the church, one to the pub. There's like loads of stories about it. It's like, it's quite cool. You should research at Boys Hall. It's got a good history. But her grandparents' house, they say, is haunted. Grace says that she's seen a woman cleaning in the bedroom that we usually stay in. And I had a dream the other night when I was there. Don't know if it was because I was being haunted, but basically I ended up screaming. I woke up shouting and screaming because basically I was at this big house. There was like a party going on. We walk into a room, and there's like this guy on the floor. I'm sort of pushing him. You all right, mate? Turn him over, and it's like this mannequin boy. And then he sort of like comes alive, and sort of like Slender Man sort of like gets up from the floor and then starts like coming at us. So I'm like kicking it back. And he grabs hold of my missus, and she starts turning into a mannequin. Mate, I woke up screaming. Like loud screaming. Like Grace had to wake me up. She was like proper, like her sister heard me from the next room. Like I was proper, like, yeah, it was horrible.
That sounds worse than any haunting.
I don't know if it was because I was being haunted.
I mean, by the sounds of it, the name Boys Hall is spooky enough.
It was very spooky when I used to go around there before it was all done up, but it's a lot nicer now. It's a very, very lovely restaurant and hotel and house. It's lovely, but yeah, it was very scary. I mean, look, the ghost is still going to be there. I've not stayed there since it's been done up, but yeah, scary places, man. Ghosts are scary. Like, I suppose at the beginning of the podcast, you said to me, are you a skeptic or a believer? I guess I said that I sort of like went in between, but I guess I'm just a believer. I guess I just am a believer. I think I do like to think that there is something out there. I don't know if I'd want to be a ghost though, because being a ghost feels a bit unfinished. Or is being a ghost the best thing? It's like life too. Have another go. Do you know what I mean? I don't know.
Think of all the things you could do if you were a ghost.
Innit? I could literally...
and all the things you can't do.
Yeah. It's sort of one outweighs the other. But we don't know. Because imagine, maybe we're just a ghost on this plane, but there's other universes to discover by being a ghost that you can actually interact with.
Or maybe, like you were saying, I think at the beginning, maybe it's just residual energy. Maybe when the ghosts aren't actually there. Maybe it's just, repeating things they did in their life. I don't know. Who knows?
Mate, I hope it's not residual energy. Otherwise, my bedroom's going to be haunted. Fuck.
Wee.
Wonder what you've been up to in there. So do you have any more stories for us?
I think that's it for like my stories. Like, I've got stories of my stepmom is a sort of, if you believe in clairvoyancy, she believes. I'm skeptical on that. I'll tell you that for nothing. but she's had, but the reason, well, I'm skeptical on it, but then she gives me ideas of that it could be true. She's had times where, so most recently that I know of, she worked for the police for a little bit. She's a therapist and she was doing restorative justice for the police. Mad job, man. Like it would like, basically it was, somebody would like have killed somebody and then they'd go and meet the victim's parents and be like, so the parents could be like, why did you do it? Like they go in a room together and like hash it out. Weird, man. Anyway, she was at the police station in the officey bit doing what she does. And like, she kept like getting this vision of a man that couldn't talk. And it was just like all very sort of like overwhelming. And she kept looking at the woman next to her. 1 second, my mic's doing it again. The ghosts are back. There we go. She was like looking at, she kept looking like at this woman and she kept hearing and seeing this guy's face. And she kept trying to sort of like power it off, like didn't want to interact with it. But then it got to a stage where she couldn't stop because obviously it was being quite persistent. And she sort of said, I'm really sorry. Is there somebody that you know that can't talk? And this woman was like, what are you talking about? And she was like, there's just, is there someone that can't talk? Has somebody died or something? And she was like, yeah, my dad like died last week of a stroke and was like non-verbal and before he died. And she was like, I just wanted to like just tell you that he's safe and everything's fine and blah, blah, blah. And this woman started crying floods of tears. And I just think that's so specific. Like, how did that, like, how did she know that? How did Kerry, my stepmom, know that? She couldn't have done. I just think it's really strange, you know?
Totally, and it's so like out of place as well, you know, that your stepmom wasn't there to, you know, give this woman a reading or you know, a psychic clairvoyant experience. She was there to do a job, but, you know, something was telling her to pass on this message.
Yeah, she reckons she's had it a few times. I can't remember specifics, but she's had it a few times where she's like people that she doesn't even know, like in the street, like she'll have to go and just have to tell someone something because it's like an overwhelming feeling. And she's been to a clairvoyant herself and a few of them. And she's told me stuff that they've said specifically about me. And she says she doesn't say anything about anyone when she goes. But even if she listens to this, she likes to chat. So I'm pretty sure she has. She must have said something. I can't believe she's gone in and said nothing. She must have been saying something. But there are some things that, no offense, but there are some things that she said to like me and my past and stuff. And you're just like, that's very strange. Some of it very vague. Some of it like, he'll always do well. Very vague, not very helpful. But some things like specific, and sometimes you'd pick up on specific things. It's just very strange.
I've not. I really want to go to one, but at the same time, I don't want to be duped. If you know what I mean.
I'm more scared. I know, mate. This is gonna make me sound so rubbish. I'm more scared if they're going to tell me something I don't want to hear, and it's going to ruin my life. Like that's what I'm worried about.
I think there are rules though. Like for instance, that if they were to perceive like your death, they're not allowed to tell you about it or something like that. I would love to do it just because I'd like to. I lost my oldest brother back in 2008, and a part of me would want to do something like that.
Yeah.
In case like there is a message that comes through, but I don't know. My other brother went through sort of a phase of seeing a medium, you know, paying her, and she used all these tarot cards, and he got to ask like 3 questions, and he recorded his time there and all that. But to be honest, most of it was like I don't know. I think a lot of it was sort of like false hope, if you know what I mean. Like that she was giving him sort of like basically things he wanted to hear, and it just didn't. To me, it didn't sound sort of like genuine.
I think in that world there are unfortunately a lot of charlatans, you know, playing on people's emotions when, you know, they're kind of seeking answers. And I think there are some people out there that, you know, just do it for money, which is sad. But I really do believe that there are people out there also that can connect to this world.
Yeah.
I like to think of it as maybe like tuning into the radio. You know, some people only get that frequency. You can only get that frequency if you're tuned in. So we all can't hear it. We all can't experience it. But some people are just on that level where they're getting these messages.
Yeah. Russell Brand talks about not having the antenna to perceive these things. As humans, we don't have the antennas. We've not evolved to have that connection. A lot of people, I mean, my TikTok is full of ancient Egypt conspiracies at the moment, and a lot of that talks about how but some of it's like physics, but some of it is like, did they have access to a higher being or higher meanings because of stuff that they had worked out with the alignment of the pyramids and shit like that? Do you know what I mean? Like, there's stuff that we need to perceive.
The human race seems to we've advanced in a lot of ways, but I think we've also lost touch with that side of things. Like, we've lost touch with nature, and I think even 100 years ago, before we had all this technology and stuff, I think humans have just been, of course we're intelligent, but I think in certain ways we've been dumbed down, and we're so out of touch with our spiritual side.
Yeah, I think there's talk about there being a great reset thousands of years ago, where there was we all went, basically there's a lot of extinction happened and stuff like that, and then a big natural disaster happened, wiped a lot of people out, and we started again. And there's people that say that we went down the path of like the combustion engine and then making electricity and we're getting to where we have now, the reason why we can do this over Zoom. Whereas people think in older civilizations, they were more technically advanced than us, but in different ways. They had understandings to use the Earth's resources in much more efficient ways, much less destructive ways. But we don't know.
There's still the remnants of these buildings out there, right?
Yeah.
So there's still temples that can apparently harness free energy.
Yeah.
I've seen quite a lot of that. I'm sure Nigel could talk about that for a while as well.
Mate, we should do a conspiracy podcast together, mate. Because my like giants, like talk about the giants of whatever, mate. Mental stuff.
Nephilim.
Well, Nephilim, that's it.
Nephilim. One thing: churches, really old churches. That's one. If there's anything that you want to look into, that's churches. That's what really intrigues me, because they, not discounting anyone's faith in religion, but those buildings weren't created just for the purpose of worshipping a god. There's so much in those buildings that factor in, you got like acoustics of sound, and to be honest, when you have a choir singing in a church, it sounds amazing. It sounds amazing for a reason, because of the way they've built that structure.
Yeah, there's got to be something that's happened. And they also say about some churches, they used to conduct electricity through bricks.
Yeah, we could go into it. We'd be here all night. Atmospheric energy, it's real. It is real. And we've been, all this technology, it is being suppressed because it's been around for donkeys. But people, they believe what they've been told at school, but literally they're only being told what someone else has told them, and what someone else has told them, and what someone else has made up. I have this thing that I like to say, and it's like, nothing is being invented, it's just being rediscovered.
Yeah. I think that's very true. I think there's a lot of things that we have lost due to capitalism, rather than having a free world, or rather than letting people be. Well, we're slaves, aren't we? We have to pay for electricity.
Slave to the system.
We're a slave to the system.
This is a whole new podcast in itself, but yeah, I think we're certainly all on the same page with this. Yeah. We could definitely do another show just talking about.
I think we should. I think that'd be a good time to do it. And maybe we should start a band as well. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
I do have another ghost story, actually. I just remembered when you were talking about messaging through mediums. That actually, I've got a story about that. My auntie Eileen, she died very, very, very many years ago now, over 10 years ago, I think. And she used to have a hairdresser called Jenny. She used to go round to her house, and when hairdressers used to go around people's houses all the time. She got a terminal cancer, and we knew that she was about to go. And she said to this Jenny, "If you ever go to a medium, I'm going to say bingo, and just that'll be me." Eileen died, and then some time later, Jenny did go to a medium, and the medium said, "I'm just hearing the word bingo. Do you know why? Bingo. Why am I hearing the word bingo?"
Did she stand up and say full house?
Yeah. She was like, "Yeah, me." But that was mad. That was a mad story.
That's one of those things you can't explain.
Yeah,
and it kind of gives you some form of proof.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, Ethan, you've been a wonderful guest. It's been great talking to you, man.
Thank you very much.
We've had some decent conversations, and I think we should bring you back to, because this podcast not just about ghosts, even though it's called Your Ghost Stories. We like to talk about kind of everything.
Yeah.
So I think we'll do a special dedicated podcast to, ancient histories and
I'd love that.
And conspiracy theories.
Yeah, let's do
because I think
that.
we've got a lot to chat about on that.
Yeah, definitely. 9/11 wasn't real. Let's go.
The Zoom meeting's about to end. It says less than a minute. There's so much pressure. My whole life is built up to this moment, and I just
Right, we'll see you later, dude.
Love you.
Love you. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Your Ghost Stories. Remember to come find us on social media at Your Ghost Stories Podcast.
Also, it would mean the world to us if you could leave a kind review wherever you're listening to help us grow the show and get it heard by more listeners so we can continue getting awesome guests on board to tell their stories to you.
If you have your own story you want to share with us, please get in touch with us at yourghoststoriespodcast@gmail.com.
We'll see you next week for episode 6 of Your Ghost Stories. Sleep tight.